Welcome. I'm Rosalie Ginevra, the Executive Director of the Architectural League, and I see more people coming in. Just want to say how happy the League is to be able to present this information session today to support the efforts of the Hire Ukrainian Designers initiative. We're recording this session and we will make it available on our website. So if you know others who were not able to attend today, you can suggest that they look for it on the League's website. Today's session is meant to provide both an overview of the initiative and along with usable nuts and bolts information. And I hope all of those of you attending will use the opportunity to ask questions and get the information that you need. For questions, please, there are two options: either use the chat function and we will pick up from there, or you can raise your hand and ask your question in person, so to speak. The raise hand function, if you're not familiar with it, is in the reactions tab at the bottom of your screen. I want to thank Craig Connick, who is here today, for introducing us at the League to Alina Nesmiva and John Wagner, two of the co-founders of the Hire Ukrainian Designers initiative. John and Alina are architects and researchers based in Boston who have very quickly worked with colleagues based in other parts of the world, who you will also meet today, to put together a process that can provide the lifeline of paid work for Ukrainian designers and architects. What they and their colleagues have pulled together in a very short time is remarkable. And I simply want to say welcome to all of our speakers today. And I will turn it over with that to John and Alina.
Hello, everybody. My name is Alina Nesmiva, and I would like to say thank you to everyone for coming today, and thank you Anne, Rosalind, and Rafi, and all of the League staff for hosting this information session on Hire Ukrainian Designers. I believe that everyone on this call today seeks to help Ukrainian people in these terrible times. And as you may imagine, almost all construction, architecture, or development work in Ukraine has stopped now due to the war. And now new projects are being built and everything is put on hold, suspended, or even canceled altogether. And nearly all Ukrainian design professionals, our peers in architecture, urban design, landscape architecture, and interior design, find themselves in an uncertain situation. And some people just lost their jobs, while others had to flee their homes and their country. And for many, their homes, they're destroyed and their loved ones lost. And our Ukrainian colleagues need the support of the international architectural community, and they need it now. And in these terrible times, we invite the architectural community of the United States to support our Ukrainian colleagues. And today we will share how your firm can help and support Ukrainians through the Hire Ukrainian Designers initiative.
Thank you all for joining this session today. In the past 2 years, our profession has reeled from uncertain challenges. The pandemic, lockdowns, and delays have brought an unprecedented condition of practice. Yet it has also revealed new possibilities of working remotely and virtually while maintaining incredible team cohesion and productivity. We are very fortunate here in the United States to be unscathed by the devastation of war on top of these other circumstances. And if this recent history is any indication, and the unspeakable violence of the Russian war on Ukraine has revealed, it's that there is no longer an over there to the issues in our global community. Ukrainians affected by this war are our neighbors. They are our classmates, they are our colleagues, and they are our peers. With remote work capabilities, these past 2 years have instituted in our practices, we are, like never before in the AEC community, equipped to aid, support, and mutually benefit from the talents and skills of Ukrainian architects and design professionals. Your choice today and pledge to hire Ukrainian designers is a powerful action that will help many, many lives, and countless more than each individual candidate you hire. Every paycheck is a focused contribution to aiding Ukrainians and their families through this difficult time. Today, we will share with you in detail how Hire Ukrainian Designers can connect you to candidates from the initial recruitment process through to the signing of a hiring contract. Later, we will hear from principals of the US companies that are both large and small, and we will learn how team leaders have managed and coordinated these teams of remote staff. And lastly, and most of all, we will hear from Ukrainian designers themselves who have forged new professional relationships with offices like yours, and who have volunteered enormous energies to aid the Ukrainian design community and connect them to this initiative during this difficult time. Alina will now share an overview of the Hire Ukrainian Designers process.
So our initiative, Hire Ukrainian Designers, created a pathway to US-based AEC companies to help Ukrainian design professionals displaced by war. And essentially, Hire Ukrainian Designers is a matchmaker between Ukrainian design professionals and US firms. Our mission is to make your process of hiring a Ukrainian professional simple, quick, and effective. We aim to eliminate all possible roadblocks you may encounter when you hire a candidate to fill the role in your company. Can I have a next? Yeah. We provide you, first of all, with a database of vetted Ukrainian designers. At the moment, we have a database of over 50 candidates who had a screening interview with our team, and they all are ready to work. You are all welcome to browse our database. To make it even easier for you, you can request us to provide you with the list of up to 5 curated candidates that will fit into your office needs. And lastly, we provide you with assistance with IT setup, accounting, and consultant contract templates, which SWA Group will elaborate on shortly. And then, of course, you do have options to hire for short, medium, or long-term contracts. And one of the most important things to emphasize is that you will be hiring a non-H-1B or work permit non-employee remote work consultant. And with COVID-19 and work from home arrangements within the last 2 years, the AEC community is already familiar with working on Zoom. So here you would have very similar workflows. And many companies are also familiar with outsourcing rendering, illustration, or drafting to the companies abroad. So from the HR and accounting perspective, our process is very similar. And lastly, we suggest that compensations could be commensurate with AIA guidelines. It is important to keep in mind that your firm's paycheck helps not just the Ukrainian individual, but their families, colleagues, and the Ukrainian community to get through this difficult time.
So for the next segment of our presentation, where we'll be hearing testimonials from different speakers. First, we'll hear from Kinder Baumgartner, who is managing principal at SWA Group. Kinder's will speak to the flow of the process and the conception of it through their organization in early and mid-April, and how their firm has been successful in hiring dozens of candidates to their teams and to peer groups in their network. We'll also hear from Doug Swissman, who is principal of Swissman Urban Design, which is a very small office, 3 employees, and gives an explanation of how his office was able to onboard a Ukrainian designer to their team. We'll also hear from Alina Plusnina, who is a project manager and team lead at SWA Group, who works directly with the team of Ukrainian consultants who are embedded with the SWA Group project team. We'll also hear from Angelina Stelmach, who is an architect at Sivak & Partners, a leading and award-winning firm in Ukraine. And Angelina is a co-initiator of the Hire Ukrainian Designers and served as our liaison to recruiting candidates in the Ukrainian design community. Lastly, we'll have a chance to hear from Hanna Kovanovska, who is a Ukrainian hire who has joined the SWA Group and been working successfully for 5 weeks now. First, I'd like to introduce Kinder Baumgartner. The floor is yours.
Thanks, John. Let's see, okay, there I am. I can see myself, good. So I'm Kinder. I manage the SWA office here at Houston, Texas. We're landscape architects. And you can go to the next slide. I guess what I am is a random guy in Houston that just starts calling random designers in Ukraine. I guess, you know, like a lot of things that happen in the world, you kind of look at what can I do? And then you kind of think, well, probably nothing. And then you just kind of go on about your life. I don't know. This war just really kind of got to me. and I wanted to do something. So I never thought about architecture or landscape architecture in Ukraine. I didn't, you know, I had never needed to think about it. And all of a sudden it was on my mind. So I went to LinkedIn, I went to some websites. I just started looking at landscape architecture at the time, and reached out to some people. And Anna, who you're going to hear from later, was really the first person I sent a note to. And it took a little while because there was a lot of chaos, you know, in her life and in her country at the moment. This was, you know, back right at the start of all this. But, you know, we connected, and the next thing you know, we kind of figured out, hey, let's work together. Let's figure out how to make that happen. She said, oh, by the way, I've got a bunch of other people here that would love to have jobs as well. I'm like, okay, I've got some big projects I would love to plug you guys into. And from there, it's just kind of grown. We started, Alina from my office, you'll hear from also, she started digging into this in a huge way, talking to more and more people. And before long, there's a lot of people that need work are suddenly reaching out to us, and we're helping them do that. Go to our next slide, please. So, you know, why do it? I mean, I think the reasons are pretty simple, but I think, you know, it's a two-way street in some ways, right? In that there's an opportunity to hire someone and then they can give you work product. But I think the primary goal of this is really to help people that suddenly do not have, you know, the things that they've, I guess, had for most of their lives, right? The sort of security, maybe their home, and definitely work, right? And so you can imagine the kind of loss of agency that you get as you're suddenly displaced. Part of our goal too is that, look, let's work together. We're going to learn things from you. You're going to learn things from us. But also you're going to have more agency over your life in this sort of time, right? So that's the big thing, you know, is to help people in that way. So that's, you know, I think the spirit of this. And of course, you get things in return, which are pretty amazing. What I found is that the work, again, having never really thought about Ukrainian designers before, I was totally amazed at the work that those guys are doing and just how good it is and the attention to detail. Next slide. So how do you do it, right? So this is the process that we've put together, you know, by just reaching out to people and people reaching out to us, vetting them, talking with them, trying to understand their situation. Basically started to create a database, which John and Alina have grabbed and kind of, you know, expanded upon with, you know, more architects. You need to pick up the phone or send a message to one of these guys and talk to them. And I think if you talk to someone there, you will hire them, because it's just, it's the right thing to do. The way that we do it, we're using consulting contracts. My firm works internationally a lot, so this is, I think, something we understand, but your firm probably from time to time hires maybe a Chinese firm to do illustrations, for example, or maybe you have a firm in India that maybe you occasionally hire to do BIM or certain, you know, AutoCAD type work for you. This is the same thing. There's a contract that explains, you know, how much they're paid, when they're paid. It says you are not an employee, you are a consulting contractor, and that takes all the sort of tax burden out of, you know, your accounting group. There's no H-1Bs, there's no reporting of any of this to the government. None of that is required because it's a contract. The accounting, you know, they need to give you their banking information, basically Swift information, and you can wire them funds. I think Doug's going to talk in a bit about, he's actually just used PayPal to do it, but in my firm, we're using Swift, you know, to move money back and forth. And, you know, IT solutions, that's a heavy one on a lot of people's minds. You know, how do we actually share files? What about security? Things like that. The simplest way is, you know, you just use Dropbox, email, whatever, and you're just sort of trading files. The more complicated way, you know, you can use probably cloud storage that you guys already have, OneDrive, you know, BIM 360 has built-in cloud stuff in it. You can put files there, share them back and forth, or you can get much bigger. And this is what we're doing at SWA, actually set up Amazon workspaces where we have outsourced, you know, cloud storage, but also cloud computing. Go to the next slide. So, the three things though well, as a designer, right, we're kind of risk takers. That's the thing that we like to do. So I jumped into this thing like, I don't know, it seems like we should just do this, right? But what you do learn is that in most of our firms, you have accountants, you might have a CFO, you have IT people, things like that, HR people that are risk adverse, right? That's their job, is not to take on risk. So what we've tried to do is work out ways to make sure those guys understand in your groups that, hey, that there's not a lot of risk here. So one is a form of contract that's very simple to use. It sets up, outlines all these pieces. It's been reviewed by an attorney that we have. It works. IT assistance, if you need help with that, we're glad to help you with it. Our IT guys have spent a couple of weeks, solid weeks, trying to figure out the Amazon workspace and how to make all that work. It's pretty seamless now. And then accounting, my accountants as well, figuring out how to wire money and the invoicing process. They can help you guys with that if you haven't done it. Next slide. And then, I think lastly, my office, we are a big firm, 300 people. We've hired 10 people through this process, and some of them are working like embedded into our teams. Others are working on more of a task by task basis. But it's been really good and it's worked great. Next slide.
Thank you so much, Kinder. Next, we're going to hear from Doug Swissman, who's principal of Swissman Urban Design based in Los Angeles, California. And Doug has been instrumental in mobilizing the Los Angeles design community for this initiative. Doug?
Thanks, John and Alina. Thank you to the Architectural League for hosting. I think if you're on this call, you probably started out with a concern as an individual, as a human being, about what was going on in Ukraine. I know that's how I started. And as Kinder said, a random guy thinking, what can I do with this terrible situation in Ukraine? And that's where things started for me in early March. I read about the large architectural organizations in Europe mobilizing to help provide employment for Ukrainian designers displaced. But I looked in this country and I didn't see that much going on at the level of the large organizations in this country. So I reached out to 6 friends, all of us fellows of the AIA, so older and in some positions of leadership, usually with our own firms. And we got together and formed this group called Los Angeles Architects for Ukraine, just to see what we could do to help. And we weren't sure how widespread the interest was, but everyone we reached out to joined. Very soon we had close to 70 signatories. And we set up 3 goals. One was to encourage the AIA as an organization to take a strong stand, our own chapter, AIA-LA, which is one of the largest in the country, and the board did respond and issued a very strong statement of support for Ukraine and for the Ukrainian design community with commitments to help. So that was mission 1. The second was we found an outreach by the Kharkiv School of Architecture, which had been forced to flee Kharkiv in the east of Ukraine because of the war, and they were trying to set up their architecture school in Lviv in the far west a bit safer, rather than disperse all of their faculty and students across Europe. We thought that was a great project because obviously Ukraine is going to need designers and builders and architects to rebuild the country, and so ongoing architectural education seemed a very important goal. So our second project was to raise a significant amount of money in their fundraising campaign, which we did, and they are in the process of setting up their school in Lviv. The third initiative was to hire Ukrainian designers, but how would we find them? We had no contacts. Like Kinder and like many of you, I really had no particular connection to Ukraine, no knowledge of the Ukrainian design community, although everything I've learned since has been extremely impressive. I mean, the level of sophistication and design is amazing and was a revelation to me, but for most of us it was a blank slate. So where would we start? And fortunately, someone put me in touch with John and Alina and said, well, there's this couple in Boston who are starting, they're writing letters and they're trying to get organizations to move. And so we connected. And then they put us in touch. We all got in touch with Kinder, and we found out that SWA had just not waited for permission and was just going ahead and had done a lot of the groundwork that would make it easy for firms, even small firms like ours, to hire a Ukrainian designer. So we really are a group of individuals, volunteers, and I think the lesson is if you feel frustrated or you want to help, there's things you want to do, don't necessarily wait for the big organizations to move. It's extraordinary what individuals can do. And of course, with the power of technology, as we're seeing in this very webinar, we can communicate around the world simultaneously and get a lot done. So that's been very, very encouraging. And I just want to thank Kinder and his team at SWA and John and Alina and Angelina for their extraordinary volunteer work to pull all of this together. It's been a huge amount of work on their part, but hugely rewarding. So let me switch to my other hat, which is just as a small principal of a firm. We focus on urban design, and I wanted to walk the walk and try to hire someone ourselves. We do a lot of large urban design projects. We do a lot of modeling and SketchUp, and sometimes we've hired students remotely, usually in the U.S., to help us out. So I asked John and Alina for some help. They shared the database, which was a bit daunting. One of the problems with a small firm, Kinder describes perhaps bureaucratic problems of a larger firm, many layers of decision making and so forth. That's not the problem in a small firm. Our problem is bandwidth, is just we don't have the manpower to go through a lot of vetting or a lot of setting up of contracts and so forth. So what we needed was help to make it easy. And between SWA and John and Alina's group, they made it very easy. And here's how. We didn't have to go through a list of 50 or 100 people, click on all those portfolios review. I simply said, well, what we could use is someone who's very good with SketchUp modeling of historic buildings, maybe a graduate student or a recent grad. And lo and behold, they narrowed down that list to 3 and then very quickly said, of the 3, we think this one person, Uliana Hrechka, is just a great match for you. And it turned out she was. And so we reached out to her, we emailed her, we looked at her portfolio online, we had a couple of conversations by email, and it was done. She looked great, she was eager to help, she had about up to 20 hours a week available. So we said, great, well, let's limit it to up 20 hours, 20 hours a week, and we'll say for 3 months, and then see how it goes. Again, because we're a small firm, we had to keep the commitment somewhat limited. And from that, we went through. Her skills were great, so SWA had prepared this very simple 1.5-page contract, which we used. We just filled it in and sent it to her. She signed it, sent it back by email. The contract was done, and her English, we did a Zoom call, so her English was very good. Her written English is excellent. And so we've been communicating by email, and now that she's working with us, we use Basecamp, which we like a lot for long distance collaboration. We do projects in a lot of different parts of the country, and Basecamp has been great for texting, for sharing files, and it's for us, for a small firm, it's been an excellent platform for this kind of communication. So Uliana is working with us. She was at school at Lviv Polytechnic in the western part of the country. Her family felt it was a little bit unsafe, and so she's moved about 50 to 100 miles east to Ternopil, a smaller city, and she's living at home with her parents, but she's doing the work from there. She sent us an invoice by email. She sent us her email address, said plug it into PayPal. It came right up. We connected it to our bank account. We paid her. She's received the money already. So it was about as easy as it could have been, given that this is someone who's working in a war-torn country, many thousands of miles away. We're so grateful to all the people who've helped make this happen, and I just want to encourage any of you who have smaller firms to say, if you want to help, It's not hard. You can do it. And as Kinder said, the real reason is to help in this situation with colleagues, with Ukrainians in general, but of course with our co-design professionals. But we're getting a whole lot back in return. Really good work on SketchUp, but that's the least of it. We're getting the satisfaction of this relationship, the feeling of making a contribution. And also I want to say the feeling, as this webinar shows, of connecting with the design community across this country and showing that this community cares, and we don't have to wait for our large membership organizations to lead. We can, on a grassroots basis, band together and make a difference. And I think Hire Ukrainian Designers is just a fantastic platform for going forward.
Thank you so much, Doug. Now we'll hear from Alina Plusnina.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alina. I work for SWA in Houston office. I'm going to share my experience of running this big complex project and also working with Ukrainian team on a daily basis. So about 5 or 6 weeks ago, 6 Ukrainian architects joined my team. And right now I have 7 people here in Houston, and I have 6 people, well, in Sweden and in Ukraine. Well, Houston office is still a hybrid office, and we do 1 day a week in the office, or 2 or 3. So to me, it doesn't really matter if my teammate is 6 miles away or 600 or 6,000 miles away, and it works just as good. We have 2 scheduled conference calls every week to go over current assignments, to go over progress, and then on a need-based basis, we schedule a couple more calls every week to go any coordination or design issues. We also use Telegram and Teams for quick messaging, and it's been working pretty well. I would have to say I get pretty stressed and my heart stops when someone is running late for a call, because, you know, chances are that's not because line at Starbucks was too long. So that's just an additional aspect to this. Our time difference is about 8 hours. So we schedule our calls in the morning, our morning. But for someone working internationally, you know, 5 a.m. or midnight calls with clients or consultants are not unheard of. So there's nothing new there. When our Ukrainian colleagues first joined us, they sat through our SWA CAD and Revit boot camps, not because they are unfamiliar with software, but because SWA has some specific tools that we well, everyone who joins SWA has to go through. In fact, they're very good with all the software that we use. Quality of work is absolutely outstanding. When we first started, I was thinking, well, that's a lot of overtime for me right there. But it turned out I didn't need to put any overtime because they're very well coordinated, they come to the calls very well prepared. So the work has been going really smoothly. I was bridging some language gaps in the beginning, but right now all I have to do is to remind my colleagues here in Houston to speak slower, and that's as much as I have to do. Again, they're very coordinated. I wish my colleagues here were as coordinated, so there's something to work on our part. As far as the deliverables go, we shared our typical SD, DD, CD packages. Our Ukrainian team studied them. They had a few questions, which we were happy to answer, and we've been pretty happy with the deliverables that we get from them. Although I had a hell of a time explaining what a 1/4 inch scale means, got laughed at, but that's the reality of working in imperial scale. Overall, the workflow is pretty stable. I was able to keep my bosses happy, clients happy, and make sure that the work goes smoothly. So nothing really to report there. That's all I had really for you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Alina. Next, we'll hear from Angelina Stelmach, who is our co-initiator of Hire Ukrainian Designers and our liaison in Ukraine.
Hello, everyone. I'm an architect and interior designer from Odessa, Ukraine. I'm a team member of an architectural and design studio, Sivak and Partners, in Odessa and Kiev. Our team is having a rough time right now. All ongoing projects and construction sites were stopped due to the war. We are a team, and this is making things easier for us to make it through this hard time. But there are a lot of designers that do not have the support like a team or firm. They are on their own and they need our help. I have a prepared text on the paper, but mostly I will speak from my heart. This is a real war going on in Ukraine right now. Because of Russian invasion, 1/3 of Ukrainian cities were destroyed, like totally destroyed. Because of a massive migration of civilians to the other parts of Ukraine, over 6 million people were forced to leave Ukraine and move to Europe and all the other countries of the world. The architectural and design industry is suffering right now as thousands of design professionals currently are without any work. Every day I have up to 5 interviews with different people in the field of architecture and interior design. All of them are desperate to have any kind of job they could have right now to support their families and their lives. These are new boundaries that must have been broken. Ukrainians are ready and eager to study language programs and much more to gain a new experience in the architectural and design fields in the United States. Every and each of them are very thankful just to have this opportunity to have this chance. And this support means the world to everyone who applied and who are in desperate need of help and support from us. Thank you for everyone who came today. This is very important for me, and this is very important for all the Ukrainian people. Your support means much more than you know. It saves lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angelina. And lastly, we'll hear from Hanna. Hanna Kovanovska is an employee with SWA Group who's been working with their team now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anna. I'm from Ukraine. I was living in Kiev last 10 years. I was thinking about what I can tell, and I came up that maybe it's important to tell just my small story about how I end up over here. But first, of course, I want to say thank you to Alina again and to Kinder for such nice feedback, and it's important to all of us. Thank you so much. Yeah, so my story, I think it's not something special. I think a lot of people are going through more hard times right now. I was lucky to flee Ukraine first 24 hours after bombs were falling on our city. I was very lucky really to meet a friend who was living in Chernivtsi in that time, and Chernivtsi is the small city which has a Romanian border, and she was driving there that day, so she drove me basically to Romanian border. So I found myself like my life was divided into parts before 24 of February and after. So I ended up in Romania, stayed there a couple of days, and I understood that I don't really understand what to do because I don't understand language. I don't have any friends over there, and nobody speaks English. So I decided to call my friend who I trust, and he was happy to host me in Sweden. So I'm here for all this time. After 1 week in Sweden, I understood that my family and my friend also that war will never end in 1 week or even 2 weeks, unfortunately. So I decided to go to migration office. I stayed there for a while, and while I was in migration office, I received a message from Kinder. It was really, I didn't believe my eyes actually that I was very happy. So we talked a few times during a couple of weeks, and I was reaching my colleagues from a company I was working in, and they were depressed. They didn't know what to do because basically nobody knew, and company was not like connecting us at that time, and we understood there is no plan what to do. So they basically came to this board with me, and we just started work. And what I need to say, I'm very happy with this job, and everyone is in the team. I think they are happy too, and we just love it because we find working climate and working culture. It's a little bit different, and it's awesome. I mean, it's really cool. And everyone from SWA team been really helpful, and actually they are making our work easy also by good communication, and we feel this intention of collaboration all the time. So I think, Alina, that's why we are delivering nice, because we have this support, and we are like feeling that we are in a team, really in a team. And of course we are lucky to have a financial support, and we are lucky to help our families, and those who left Ukraine, they need to stay in Europe, and it's different here with everything. So you need to provide to yourself. So of course it's really important, really important. What I should say that life in Ukraine will never be the same. I really want after time that we need to rebuild Ukraine. We need to start doing it. So actually this experience we are gaining right now can really help Ukraine in future in different ways, because it's not only a professional experience we gain, we also gain a new level of collaboration. So it's really nice, and it's been really helpful. So that's, I think, what I have to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hanna, for sharing. And so to everyone on the call, you've heard from perspectives ranging from principals of large firms to small firms in the United States and teams to designers themselves, Ukrainian designers themselves, who've been working as remote consultants for offices now successfully for many weeks. And so this is our offer to you. You hire Ukrainian designers is, as you can see, it is a legal and it's a simple process for your office to hire vetted, qualified Ukrainian professionals to your team as non-employee remote work consultants. You will be joining 5 US firms, both large and small, who've together hired over 34 Ukrainian candidates to date. And we have dozens of more candidates who've been vetted, who are ready to be interviewed by your office to join your teams. You'll be joining firms like SWA, as you've heard from today, Rafi Siegel Architecture and Urbanism, Partners for Architecture, Swissman Urban Design, and Site Studio, among others who are, like you, committing to interview candidates and hire. We also want to thank our promotional partners who have helped publicize this event, the Architects newspaper, the Architectural League, of course, Interior Design magazine, and as well as Architect, which has offered to become an official partner of the Hire Ukrainian Designers initiative, now offering free job postings to offices who would like to directly solicit Ukrainian candidates to roles in their firms. You can find out a little bit more about that at Architect's website. And most of all, for everyone who participates in this, we want to make sure that your office is acknowledged for your leadership in this initiative. And we will feature your office in the coming weeks on our Instagram and on our website. So please follow us on Instagram at Hire Ukrainian Designers. And special thanks goes out to the Architectural League of New York. Just a few short, what feels like now days ago, when we were introduced to the Architectural League, within moments, they opened their arms to us to receive this initiative and help us bring this word to more audience more widely here in the United States. And we're so thankful and grateful for the support that you have contributed to us. With our remaining time, we would love to open it up for questions, because we're sure that many of you may have questions for any of our panelists. And so at this time, we welcome you to ask any questions you may have about the initiative and how you might be able to get involved. If you are ready to proceed and you want to get involved now, please follow that link at the bottom of the screen to hireukrainiandesigners.org, and you can reach out as a firm to our team to help begin connecting you in the process. Excellent. So Mari has placed the link for you in the chat. And if you have any questions at all, please, using the icon to react, you can raise your hand, or you can graphically raise your hand with your camera on. I'll call on you, and if you can share your question, any of our panelists will be happy to directly address it. Great. So we have a question from Sue Horowitz, who asks, how challenging is it to work in the imperial system? So perhaps Hannah or Angelina might have an idea about that.
Well, I mean, when Anna, who's working with me, actually, oddly enough, is working on a project in Egypt. So it's very international, but yeah, it's metric system. So so we had no issues there.
I'm just gonna say, because right now a few of my coworkers experienced this time with imperial system, and at first it looks really complicated, but you know, after you get involved with them with some projects, so you get used to it. So it's probably sometimes you need to recheck twice, but then you get used to it, so it's not that a big deal, I guess.
So of the participants on the call, who feels, oh, Tom, yes.
Yeah, so just a quick question. I'm wondering if somebody either one of the participating firms or even one of the participants themselves could talk about the technology challenges. You know, firms working in Revit, are you working with a shared model, or as a consultant, are you taking discrete pieces and working on them and delivering a product? Just kind of, you know, that's one of the big things that I'm thinking about, and I'm sure you've already dealt with it, so I'd like to hear what your experiences are.
Hey, Alina, why don't you jump in? I mean, you're kind of guiding those guys with, and I know you just did a big Revit class, but you guys are sharing work.
Yeah, sure. Well, we are working in Revit, and we have a central model on our server here in Houston. And just like I am able to work in Revit from home, not just from the office, our team is working from Ukraine and from Sweden. So we haven't really had any issues. And then for CAD and other things, they have access to copies of our files. So they have access to our project directory that is stored on the server. And then every so often, you know, there's back and forth between our server here in Houston and then the cloud server. I don't know, where is it? Somewhere in Germany. So yeah, it's been pretty smooth. I guess because our IT people know what they're doing, but I haven't had too many issues with that. Well, nothing that we haven't seen, you know, figuring out the workflow during COVID. Then for ArchiCAD, yes, our team used to work in ArchiCAD, and they're still working using ArchiCAD on our project, and then we're just combining the files for the final deliverables to the client. They have their own licenses, but also Graphisoft granted free licenses to Ukrainian designers. So if there is a need for ArchiCAD license, you would need to work directly with Graphisoft, but it should be free for Ukrainian architects.
I would also like to add something about software compatibility. Other firms that we have worked with provide virtual machines to their consultants so that they would log on just much in the same way that an American-based American employee would be logging onto a virtual machine at a workstation in that office to conduct their work with licenses that are owned and managed by your corporate office. Hannah, I think you had a comment.
I just wanted to share that our team already received the ArchiCAD license, so it's not a problem. You just apply.
Excellent, thank you so much. And Sue also asks a question about building assemblies and how familiar are Ukrainian designers with wood frame single family construction?
I have a hint on it. Like the most common thing in Ukraine within the construction is aerated concrete and reinforced concrete structures, also stone, but wood, I think it's kind of rare stuff, but you know, all the Ukrainians learn pretty fast. So if you have like, if you have any manuals that you can share, like all your building norms, so that's not going to be a really big problem. And also I'm going to add to about the ArchiCAD licenses. A lot of before used the corrupted versions. Sorry to tell this, but still this is a true. But for now, ArchiCAD managed the free licensing for Ukrainians. So as long as you apply, you will have the normal version of ArchiCAD, and it's gonna work like it's supposed to work. So I don't think there's gonna be any problems with it. because the mostly like 80% of applicants familiar with ArchiCAD, like on a good basis.
So I'm sure some of you may have questions that are still pending, or you have back tables that you want to consult with other partners or managing staff at your firms. One of the important things to keep in mind is that this whole process has now worked quite successfully for firms as many as 300 employees and firms, as you've heard from with Doug, as few as 3. So if you have any questions whatsoever, please reach out to our team. All of us are available to consult with you and have a follow-up if you want to have more specific questions tailored to your needs. And if you do feel ready to reach out to us directly for candidates, please do so. You can visit hireukrainiandesigners.org and you can see our contact information. If you have in mind the type of skill sets you're looking for, years of experience, maybe specializations, that would be very helpful, because our team can then provide to you a selection of candidates that we feel would be a good fit for your role in your firm, for your needs.
I want to thank you all for such, all of the presenters for such an incredibly expertly organized presentation, done as everything that you've done so far has been done so quickly and with such skill and professionalism. So thank you very much. And thank you on the League staff to Anne Rieselbach, and especially to Rafi Lehman for putting this together very quickly. We at the League will try and turn around the recording of this and get it on our website as soon as we can, so that others can watch this as well. So, and we hope that you all will point people towards this, because I think it's provided an amazing amount of information and the personal stories. Thank you for making all of this very vivid and direct for us. So thank you, everybody. I think, yeah, I think we will continue to direct people to hire Ukrainian designers, and please be in touch if you have any questions for the Architectural League. And thank you so much again to all of you who have organized this, and to everybody who's attended today.
Many thanks to you, Rosalie, and to Rafi, and to all of the Architecture League staff. Your commitment to this has been invaluable to spread this message across the United States to our peers in the AEC community.
Thank you all.
Thank you.